Donald Trump Jr.'s speaking tour in Australia has been postponed after the government allegedly failed to approve his visa on time. Joining us live now, Shadow Home Affairs and Cybersecurity Minister James Patterson. James, good to see you. So on Donald Trump Jr., so the passing or the rubber stamping, should I say, of the visa basically came through, 24 hours before he was due to leave. So it was there in time. But what are your thoughts on that, first of all?
Well, good morning, Pete. As you say, media reports suggest that the visa for Mr Trump Jr. was granted, although quite late before his departure to Australia. If it is the case that the Department of Home Affairs was just going through its usual processes and they took time, that's one thing. If it's the case that the department went slow on that because of the nature of the application, then that would be something very different indeed. We do not have a political test for seeking and achieving a visa to visit Australia, and it would be concerning if that was the case.
Right.
Really, it is up to the Department of Home Affairs to explain how it handled this visa application and to demonstrate it did so in the normal way.
Yeah, I mean, it was submitted in May. So, what's that? Roughly 6-ish or so weeks, maybe a bit more. Is that about the time that it would take to basically approve a visa?
Truthfully, Pete, it varies enormously depending on the applicant, the nature of their visit, the country they're coming from, the load of applications at the time. There are various different reasons why it could take a different amount of time, and I think it is incumbent on the department to demonstrate that it handled this in the orthodox way, and then if it's able to do so, then that's one thing. But if there was any kind of political interference, that would be a concern.
OK, 2 Chinese Australians with bounties on their heads, James. How does this marry with our push to stabilise relations with China at the moment?
The coalition's provided bipartisan support since the election to the Albanese government and its attempts to stabilise the relationship, and we've welcomed the improvements to the relationship that have occurred since the election. We always thought it was unproductive, for example, that Chinese government officials refused to engage in ministerial talks with their counterparts, and we in government were always open to having those conversations. So we've welcomed those being resumed and the slight scaling back of some of the trade sanctions against Australia. Having said that, what is happening now, this particular incident, is not normal and it should not be treated as normal. This is clearly and transparently an attempt to reach into the heart of Australia's democracy and to say that Australians engaging in freedom of speech and political activism within Australia shouldn't be allowed to do so. It's an extraordinary thing to put a bounty on the head of a citizen of a foreign country, to issue an arrest warrant for them, and to publicly say that you'll pursue them for the rest of their lives and watch them wherever they are in the world. That is a transparent intervention in our democracy. It cannot and should not be tolerated. And we have asked the Prime Minister to consider, in light of this, whether it is a good look to travel to China later this year and be smiling and shaking hands with Xi Jinping like nothing's happened.
All right, so maybe he should reconsider that.
Well, I just think it would be, the timing is important and the context is important. The Prime Minister has previously said that he will still go to China even if Yang Hengjun and Cheng Lei are still arbitrarily and wrongfully detained. He has previously said he will still go to China even if the unlawful and unjustified trade sanctions are not lifted. If he is also willing to go to China, even if there are still outstanding bounties on the heads of Australian citizens, then I think that does send a message that the Australian government is willing to tolerate these interventions into our democracy, this inappropriate treatment of our country, and that there will be no consequences if the Chinese government continues to behave this way.
All right, just a final one, James. New cybersecurity czar Darren Goldie has revealed sensitive personal and government information has been stolen and published on the dark web by a ransomware gang that hacked law firm HBL Ebsworth. Your thoughts on this?
Look, it's welcome, Pete, that finally the government has acknowledged this, but this cyber attack happened in April. It should not have taken until Darren Goldie was appointed on the 1st of July, started his role on the 1st of July, to make this public disclosure. It was evident from day one that a law firm which acts for dozens of government departments as clients, which has had its case files ransomwared by an allegedly Russian gang, that this was going to be serious. And the government should have been much more transparent about this much earlier. We still don't know which government departments and agencies have been affected. That is the next disclosure that Darren Goldie needs to make, because the Minister and the government have, for whatever reason, been unwilling or unable to do so until now.